All right. There. G'day, everyone. Let's see now if this is live. We've had some issues with the audio. So can you let us know now in the live chat if the audio now is
Let's hope.
okay? Because
I'm talking. Do I look like an
let me
old
just bring
Japanese
on to
kung fu
Aaron.
movie?
So
Or
talk,
Chinese?
Aaron, and then we'll just see
Hello,
if it's...
hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. We are talking with confidence, no matter what happens around here. That's what we're talking about today is confidence.
There's 2
and
dislikes already. I love it. I love who would put 2 dislikes on there. Now, is it still lip sync's okay?
Hello.
It looks like we're all right.
Does it look good?
You little beauty. So it looks like we're
Yes.
fine now. Who knows what it was? Audio working, Mike said. Sync seems good now.
All right.
Now, just let us know because we're having still issues with Aaron's colour. I'm going to switch on to Aaron. Just let us know. Does Aaron look like he's too green or yellow or?
I'm not going to fix it.
Well, we're not going to fix it, but there's obviously something we're going to have to try and look at for next week. Langston said it's out of sync.
Oh,
Better now, but
out of
laggy.
sync. Laggy, out of sync. 1, 2, 3.
No,
so we're out of sync.
See, it's gone bad again.
Huh.
Aaron is a bit dark now. Gone again. Never been better. George said. Oh, love it.
Oh my gosh.
What's going on with this thing?
I don't know. Barry said it looks good.
Aaron's lips are out of sync. I concur.
Oh my
He looks
gosh.
green. Yeah, Aaron is green.
Yeah, I'm green, out of sync.
So
all
is it
kind of
still?
stuff.
Is it still not good? Like, what we're going to do if this is not good, we're going to... Yeah, it's out of sync. All right. I'll explain what we're going to do. Aaron and myself are going to do the show now, and then we'll upload it for you all. It just means we're not going to have anything live today. But there's obviously... I don't know whether it's an issue with
his mouse?
Skype or whatever. I'm not quite certain what's going on here, but it should be okay because I've restarted my machine and restarted everything. So it may be a problem with YouTube today. It could be that as well, or it may even be just a problem with Wirecast. I'm not sure. So we may do that. Langston says, and now it's an audio podcast. Jim said, keep on going. Yeah, but it's a bit distracting if it's really bad. Is the
we can put our masks on.
Yeah, we should just do the whole thing with masks on.
Like this.
Love it. So is it out now with us both talking together? Because it could be something like in Ycast that's happening here. So now that we're both on the same screen, is it now back in sync or is it out of sync now?
I can tell you though, David, like you said before, I'm looking at you on Skype and you're like way off on Skype.
Yeah, so it could be Skype that's the problem.
Yeah, you're like way behind.
I mean, who knows? It might be that because everyone's stuck at home.
That's true.
That this is. They're saying it's okay now. You're okay, David.
Oh my gosh. Hey, lip syncing. Hello,
well,
hello.
Perhaps I'm just not going to switch over to the single one of us both there. Langston says, "Oh wow." Well, if this looks. Now it's back in sync. Well, this is weird. All right, now I'm going to switch to one more thing because this is where we're talking about the post. Let me know if this is still in sync here as well. Is this now still in sync if we talk here? Let us know now whether that's okay as well. So you talk as well,
Langston said it jumped back to in sync when you went to split screen. So stay here.
Yeah. Well, I have to go on to this one to show the news story. So is it okay now? Yeah, leave it like this. We like seeing both of you at the same time. Yeah, so
Aaron is greener. I don't see, when I look at my monitor, I'm not green.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you are really green when you look at it through here. When I look at it, it looks really green.
That's weird.
They're saying David is in sync, but not Aaron. Yeah, I think it's a Skype issue. Keep going. We need a live screen. We're both on screen. David is in sync. Aaron is out of sync.
I don't know sign language.
Yes, it's in sync. Okay, so we're right. I'm just not going to switch to where we're on the full screen for each of us. We'll stay exactly like this, all right? So we'll do this and then also go over.
So that means it is your computer, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm
because
wondering...
if you switch and it goes out, then you switch back and it's good. So if we stay in sync, it's something with your Wirecast.
But they're saying you're staying out of sync, Aaron, even a little bit. So I think it might be something with Skype.
Too many variables, you know.
See, the reason why I'm saying that is because it's getting me live on this now, so I'm not using Skype into Wirecast, but you are through Skype. So I think it's Skype that's actually the issue.
It's Skype.
It could be just that everyone's home. Everyone at the moment is using the internet, and everyone at home is doing live broadcasts and talking to each other through all this stuff, and it just can't keep up with the bandwidth that's coming through.
We don't go live, or we wear masks, or pre-record it. I don't know.
We're okay, but we're all right, I think, as long as we don't go. And I see if I blow it up, it will be way too obvious because it'll be a large screen of you.
Yeah, it's true. Green, off the sync guy, out of sync guy.
Yeah. Oh, well, anyway, let's keep going anyway. So we're going to go back over that first story just for a minute. I know it's a pain, guys, but I'm going to delete that first video that's there. So we just wanted to talk about this first story that's there, which is this one. Now, again, we're just going to go through it again quickly. We won't spend too long on it. I will leave the link down below if you want to view this, because it's really quite funny. How this Australian comedian gets the US reporter from the ABC. I think she was from the ABC. I think it says down here somewhere that she was from the ABC News. It's set up the top. But he gets her to do like this posing. He tricks her to believe that he was this famous Vogue photographer from Australia. And it's really quite funny. And he also does it with models and things like that. And I've seen this done before where a photographer went over there, and I think that was another Australian actually, went over and tricked all the media to think that he was this famous photographer. And in fact, one photographer did it where he hired people, all these other people, to follow him with cameras and things like that. And everyone thought that he was a movie star or some massive celebrity. And then they all went around and tried to photograph him and all this sort of stuff. So confidence is an incredible thing that if you are confident, you can almost pull anything off. Years ago, to tell you this actual story, years ago when someone challenged me to walk through one of the biggest newspapers here in Australia, and it was The Age, which is one of our largest newspaper. I grabbed one of the pin boards that you grab there with a bit of paper on it, and I grabbed a pen. And I walked through that whole. I don't think you could probably do it now because the security would be too great now. But I walked through the whole of The Age. That was including their dark rooms, their all the areas where they were the reporters were reporting. I walked through the whole place. All I used was this little clipboard with a pen. Looked like I was taking notes, and not a single person challenged me. And I pulled it off because I was confident in what I was doing.
Exactly.
And I was mentioning before with Aaron, we discussed this in the previous one, that if you are, say, a wedding photographer or any photographer, if you have issues with your client or there's something going wrong with your camera, as long as you don't look like there's a problem there, you'll never ever make your talent nervous or the bride nervous or something like that. And I was mentioning how Kerry has issues with that because she can't hide when something goes wrong, and she'll immediately show it, whereas I will, no matter what's going wrong in the back of the camera, I won't show that there's been an issue. I'll just be thinking about how I can correct it, and I can sort of fix it within a few shots. But confidence is really, really important, and it's something that we all have to think about, trying to pretend, if you're not confident, trying to get to the point where you can look confident, because to your clients, to your bride, that means everything. If you're having issues, you do not want your talent to know you're having issues, Aaron.
Well, for one, you'll look like an idiot, and two, they'll get nervous, like, oh my gosh, who did I hire, and are these going to come out good? And then they start, and then I've always showed confidence, but I can imagine what would be going through their head. They'd probably be questioning you the rest of the day. It's like, does he know what he's doing or what? And here's a good story. Here in Puerto Rico, there was Jean-Claude Van Damme was here making a movie, and I was invited to be on the set. But when I got there, the security guards didn't know me. Most of the people didn't know me, actually. Just the assistant director knew me. But I didn't know where he was. When I showed up, I did exactly what you did. I absolutely just showed confidence. I acted like I knew what I was doing, where I was going, and nobody questioned me. I walked right in the set. I mean, like right on the set there. I've got a video of the whole Jean-Claude Van experience that I on my YouTube channel. And I just walked right in, and then I was a little nervous because if they're going to kick me out if they know I shouldn't be there, but I was invited. They didn't know that. But anyways, I walked in, found the guy, and then I felt safe because now he could tell everybody that I'm supposed to be there. But yeah, I just was confident, walked right in, and nobody even asked me a word. I just I knew where I was going. So confidence is, the absolutely most important thing you can have. And I was saying on before we had to redo this that even if you're confident in everything you do, even if you don't know what you're doing, as that Australian comedian showed, people are just going to believe that you know what you're doing. And if you are a professional, carry that over to that. So when things are going wrong, you don't look all stressed out like you just explained, David. You don't want to be stressed out and the bride looking at you like, oh my gosh, then everybody feels all kind of awkward and all the stress. So yep, confidence is absolutely important in so many ways in life, not just photography and video production.
Excuse me. Well, Mark said confidence is great until the client says, where's my images? Now, you can't do this. I'm not saying to do this if you're not competent in what you're doing. No. But what I'm saying is that confidence will make a massive difference in how successful your shoot actually is. And like I said, if I've had issues where, for instance, sometimes I've been working and then the flash may have an issue, or there could be some settings that you've gone, because you change your cameras and stuff so much, or the settings so much, you might have forgotten to do something, and then immediately you look on the back of the camera. The worst thing you could do is go like this. Kerry has problems because she will almost do that, whereas I look at it and go, oh yeah, it looks beautiful. And in fact, sometimes if I look at the image and it looks something's really gone wrong, I'll immediately go, ooh, nice. And then I'll immediately be thinking about how I can fix it, but without showing them that there's an issue that's actually there. Because, like I said, brides particularly, and models, if you're dealing with new ones, the more experienced ones would be okay. But newer models, if they pick up that you're not confident and you're all shaky and you're worried about what's going on, they'll immediately pick up on that, and it plays on them as well. So you do have to try and train yourself to look really confident, even though you might not be. It's something that you really have to try and do. And that's why I say to everyone, like when I mentored Ben and everyone recently in weddings and things like that, I said to him, slow down, Ben, because Ben was going like 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I said, slow down, breathe, take your time, because remember, they don't know any different than that. And they actually like you being like that, being more relaxed and more confident in what you're doing. So we all have to sort of take a step back and relax a little bit, get it right, and then move on. And that shows confidence. And that's why I thought it's a pretty important thing, to discuss.
And we're definitely not saying lie your way into something when you don't know what you're doing. You know, I mean, we kind of said that about the Jean-Claude Van Damme, setting him with his clipboard. But if you're there being paid to do something, you better know how to do what you're doing. But just add confidence to everything you do, and it's just going to work out great.
Confidence is an incredible thing. Like, for instance, if you go to a really high-end store, that I'm talking about clothing, for instance, if you're walking down Rodeo Drive or something like that, and those stores down there, they will pick up immediately if someone doesn't fit in. But how do they do that usually? Is because they don't know if someone's dressing like say for instance, someone was very casually dressed in whatever gear they're in. A person that has money would walk into those shops with confidence. And that's the difference. You could be dressed like anything with no money, but if you've got confidence, you could walk into those shops and you could make them believe that you've got money. And this is why I'm saying it's confidence is a very, very powerful tool that you can have, and it can get you things and get you jobs and things that you never would have gotten before if you haven't got the confidence to sort of try and get into that area or succeed in that area. And that's why I'm saying it's an important thing to work on, as well as photographic techniques as well. And that's why I just thought it was a great thing to share.
Langston said, fake it till you make it. That's what 3/4 of Hollywood does. I'm telling you, you got to just be confident in whatever you do. And of course, if you have talent to back that up too, then you're really on your way to whatever job you desire, really.
Well, it's true. Jim said, did you challenge Van Damme to a bit of sparring?
I did, actually. I left you can watch my video that I did about the subject. It was several years back, so you'd have to really go to my YouTube channel and dig for it.
Oh, that's cool. We'll have to see if we can find that. Now, the next story that we've got up through here is this, and I thought this would be a good one to share. It's portraits in the time of the coronavirus. Well, basically, I wanted to discuss this with you because it's interesting to see what's happened here. This photographer in this regard has basically got outside and is shooting families from outside the window
cool.
inside. So it's an interesting idea, and I thought I'd show you this. Let me just make sure I switch over. It's here. So he's, if you look at it, there he's shot some families that he's done from the outside in. They're all inside, obviously behind the glass, so it's safe. I mean, they're very, very cute. What they've got, and it just talks about things like that. You can see here that there's a family looking through the door. It's just some interesting things. Again, there's one here with a flag that they've used as well, and that's another one where you can see through, and they've stuck little things on the windows. But what I thought I'd mention this was trying to keep yourself busy, and I think it's really important, particularly if we're stuck inside. And you're starting to get bored. Well, there's still things that you can do. And I was trying to think of some interesting things that we could do as photographers. And so Aaron, I'll pass over to Aaron in a minute. He may be able to think of some things too. But I was saying it might be a good time to take a self-portrait of yourself, for instance, that you could use in your social media. Or try, there's one thing I'd love to do, but I've never had the time to do it, which is stop motion. I think stop motion would be a fantastic thing to try if you've got a lot of time. Product photography could also be something that you could really sort of think about, try and shoot some products and get very good in that regard, or start to learn some different techniques, get like I do with Susie, that I bring in the dummy that I bring in, and I'll start to practice lighting techniques and things like that. There's lots that you can do if you're sort of held down at home and locked down, that you can sort of pass the time and learn new techniques. The things that I don't suggest, and this is where it's one of my pet hates. I hate how some photographers at the moment I'm not saying they're trying to take advantage of people, but I've noticed there's an awful lot of influx of things like selling my presets, buy my presets, things like that, which are not going to help you at all. You'd be better off to try and make your own presets at this time. Play around with Lightroom. Make your own presets that you can use, that you shoot a certain way, and then you can use those presets on your work. Remember, if you're buying someone else's presets, they're based on what their image looked at that time. If you use that preset, unless the image was shot exactly the same, you're going to get a totally different look. Try not to get sucked in, I sort of think, by what some people are trying to offer in some of the more shady workshops, perhaps, or some of these things with presets and things like that. Try and do things that will really help you to grow. Like I said, you'd be far better to use Lightroom and learn to make your own presets. Save the money, and it will be directly related to what you're going to do. What do you think? I mean, what do you try and do to keep active, Aaron?
I think I'm kind of sad that you said don't buy presets, because I'm actually selling my own LUT about how to get the green. How to get green skin.
LUTs are different, though.
LUT, go to my whatever channel and buy it, and you get a green skin. No,
LUTs are different. Yeah.
Yeah, LUTs are different. I don't think I've ever bought LUTs or I always did it all myself. But what do I do? Well, if you've seen my last video, I did a whole rework of my, with the time being in lockdown, I did a whole rework of my office or studio, as you can see here, which took a couple days to do. I did a whole bunch of different social media photo of myself with graphics, tons of graphics for the new way I'm doing my YouTube channel. So I spent time just revamping my YouTube stuff. Now, if you don't have a YouTube channel, you could do the same. Like David said, you could take like a self-portrait of yourself for your social media if you're just a photographer and you don't have a YouTube channel. So there's so many things you can do. The other thing you can do is get into a program that you've maybe wanted to, like if you're a photographer thinking about going to video, go do some video, download the free DaVinci Resolve, which I've been using for a long time.
LumaFusion figure out how to use free at the moment, Aaron, as well, I believe.
Oh, it's free.
For 3 months. I think you get a 3-month. Final Cut is also available for 3 months. Perfect.
Yeah, download these programs that you might have thought you should get into video if you're a photographer going into video, and start learning video. that would be a great opportunity right now while you don't have clients to, because I've noticed when I start getting really busy like I have for the last 5 years in photography, I haven't been doing much with video just because, the work I've been getting in photography. But now, since you don't have those clients, now's the time, if you're a photographer, to get into video, because David has said it so many times about how important video is become and becoming, where maybe more clients are going to want video, and it opens up your work base to not just do photography but also video, because I also do TV commercials and stuff like that. So I've got a wide knowledge of photography and video. So use this time to get into video. That's what I would say.
I'm laughing
helpful.
at Langston's comment. Get the Hulk LUT now. I'm not sure if he's saying.
Yeah, the Incredible Hulklet. It's the green skin. Oh my gosh, I'm selling it. AaronJAnderson.com. You go pick up your LUT today.
I'm just laughing. Funny. That's so funny. I'm just seeing what other people are saying here too. Gerald said, I could relate several times where confidence saved my life when confronted with bad folks pointing guns at me. And Gerald would have had that when he did all his, when he did all his reporting, doing the reportage stuff that he did for photography.
He even worked in stuff like that.
Langston says, I've been really, excuse me, I've still got this cough. Langston says, I've been really unmotivated, that I'm still working as 90% of my job was at home from before the pandemic. So he's obviously got work that he can still do from home. But Langston was in programming and stuff, so they could probably work
that's good.
From home as well. Macro is great.
Learn a new skill.
Steve's saying dig out the macro lens. That's another great one as well. I noticed Joe did some great ones that he shared on the photography videography school, where he was dropping things into water and stuff and doing all these sort of things. So there's so much techniques that you can learn.
Oh, so many.
While you're stuck at home, that, like I said, try macro for the first time. See what you can get out of that. Try product photography to see if you can get that beautiful lighting that you can get on product photography, things like that. Learn video, like Aaron said, is a really important one that you can just do around the house. Learn to do different techniques with video, B-roll, things like that. So there's so much that you can do, but you've got to stay motivated. If you're stuck at home, say, if this goes on for, as the Australian government's saying, we're going to have this for 6 months. That's what we were told yesterday. If you're doing this for 6 months and you're not doing anything, well, I feel a bit sad, because you should be utilising every second that you've got to learn a new skill and do something. Learn Photoshop. There's so many free YouTube videos that you can do to learn Photoshop. To learn, say if you've got an iPad, learn LumaFusion or something like that. Learn to use Final Cut. Like I said, there's a 3-month free thing of that at the moment. I think cool. Adobe has some free for the next 2 months if you've got, if you set it up a certain way. I think you have to. There's stuff online that you can go to, and you'll get the whole Adobe suite for free for 2 months. So you could, learn Premiere, Aaron.
Yeah, Langston asked me he would be interested in finding out how I got into commercial work, maybe not now, but maybe later. That's one thing I can briefly just answer that. I basically started learning how to do video for filming church services at my church. And once I really liked that, I just got really knowledgeable and skilled about how to do video. And then I started actually someone came to me and asked, it was a music artist, hey, I saw your short film that you did at the church. Can you do a music video for me? And that's how I started getting into video, by doing a lot of people do that, get started in doing music videos. So did the music video thing, and then you start networking with people, and I started motion graphics, so I started doing some motion graphics for Univision, and then you just start networking, and then I got hired on to be the cameraman for a international TV show called Teen Pet Vet, and that's how I did it. Just music videos are one of the easiest things, and that way you have like a YouTube channel, and you've got a portfolio then to show other people you might network with, like, I heard you got an opening at Univision to do something. Well, here's my work, and you already have your work built up. So that's basically how I did it in a nutshell.
So why, just while we're talking about this, why have you chosen to go down the DaVinci line as against using Premiere? Because you're a PC user.
Are you asking me for
Yeah.
DaVinci Resolve?
Yeah.
DaVinci Resolve, I was using like a long, long time ago for color grading. That was mainly all it was for, because it's one of the main tools that people were using. So if you're going to be sending off certain grades or whatever to other people, they're all kind of using DaVinci Resolve, at least around where I was. And then I was using Premiere Pro to do all my editing and doing all this back and forth stuff. But then DaVinci Resolve started doing a really good editing suite in there, and now they've got Fairlight, which does the audio. So all the Adobe stuff I was using is all basically now in DaVinci Resolve, and I don't have to round trip. I do round trip to After Effects because they do have DaVinci Resolve now has a what's it called? It's like the After Effects inside Resolve, which I don't know quite good enough yet, so I'm still round tripping to After Effects, but I'm using DaVinci Resolve because it's just all there and it works great. There's a few little kinks in it here and there, but that's why I use it. It has everything I need in it.
Yeah. So I'd love you to, and we probably should, it might be a good idea in the photography videography school to show that, just to sort of show here. Let me just switch back over to this. That this would be a great place too, if I can bring this up once it reboots up. The photography videography school is a great place that you can also share your work and things like that.
Yes.
That'd be a great spot to see. Even this is sticking as well. I don't know what's going on with my machine. It's a bit weird at the moment.
At least you're not green.
No, I'm not green. But this would be a great place too to share some things that you can think about doing. If you had, like I said, some macro that you'd never shot before, you can see here that Scott's doing stuff where he did water drop stuff here that he's practicing on, things like that. There's a lot of people who are doing different things. So he made this slow motion video at home, so he's trying slow motion video at home. Douglas is trying. So there's so much that you could try to do that you would probably never have the time to do normally, and you can see that's pretty cool that they're sharing through here. It's just great. So I'd love you to share some things that you can think about in the photography videography school. I'll leave the link down below in case if you wanted to join that with us. But try and think of some things that may help you with your future. Like I said, over the next few weeks, particularly.
That's what I would say is the most. Yeah, I mean, it's fun to have fun. It's fun to play video games and watch movies. But if you're watching this video, you're probably into video and photography, and you really should use this time to do something that could further your skills and potentially get you jobs later. Since I got into product photography about 2 years ago, I started doing like acai bowls, fruit for this one company.
Yeah.
I was doing a video commercial for them, and product photography for their menus at their little stores and stuff. So I started getting into that. Then it got into jewelry and all that. So because of that, now I still have a job during this lockdown because the jewelry store that I'm doing photography for has I forget what you call it, but it's like a banking license. So they're allowed to open because they're like a pawn shop type thing. So because of that extra skill that I acquired 2 years ago, I actually got work during this time.
Yeah.
So you really got to just learn all kind of different things. And I always say learn different programs too, because you never know who's going to say, hey, do you know After Effects? Because we want to hire someone to do it. And then you say, yeah, I know it. So, yeah.
Well, it might be the perfect time, for instance, to, grab your wife's or your mother's, if that's the case, wedding ring, and try some beautiful macro shots. Try adding some lights behind that to get some lovely bokeh that's coming out there. Remember, it's hard to practice these things if you're in a real wedding, but if you've got the time to practice them now while you're not in a wedding, then you'll be able to use those skills when you're in a wedding, to get those lovely ring shots that brides love. Try some different things in that regard. Add lighting on the sides and top and bottom, and see if you can get the sparkle correctly in the diamond and things like that can just help you. And then these are things that I'm trying to say, skill yourself up in things. If you haven't done frequency separation, for instance, which is the skin softening, try and learn about how to do that. If you've got some images, even download the images off the net. I mean, as long as you don't repost them as yours, just to practice that you can just use them at home. and play around with them so that you can learn to do some skin softening and things like that. They're all things that you can look at, add some sharpening in the eyes. And these are all things that you can try that you never have the time to do. So try if you can to utilize as much time as possible.
Use your time wisely.
Yep. So let's go on to the next story, which is this 5 tips for rescheduling a wedding. Now, this is really quite a good article because let me just bring this up. Basically, if you look at this, it gives you, well, for instance, I've had every single wedding I've got is now postponed that I had for the next 6 months. So I've definitely come against this problem. And it just depends on how you go about rescheduling it, or what I'm suggesting is you do try and push for rescheduling and don't cancel the wedding. The worst thing you can do at this stage is to have the wedding cancelled. So this is giving you some tips about how you can reschedule the whole wedding, and I won't read through the whole thing, but we'll just look at some of these tips that they're saying here. The number one is consider your contract and what you can do. Well, I've got inside my contract, and I would suggest that anyone that does any commercial photography, really any photography at all, really, should have a contract, because it does protect you in case if things go wrong. In my wedding contract, it does say that it can be, well, it doesn't say it can be rescheduled, but it will say that you'd lose your deposit. I can't remember the exact way that it's written, but it will say that the deposit is non-refundable. The rest of it obviously then can be refundable. I'm not going to be a horrible person and not refund the money if the wedding doesn't go ahead, but I would keep the deposit, which for me is I asked for $450. Now what that will do, it covers me in case if a bride does have an issue or changes their mind or pulls out of the wedding, that at least, because remember, I've lost that date. And this is the thing, even now, even with the virus that's around, I've still lost that date that I couldn't book for something else. And if a bride had cancelled even outside of that, they never ever get that deposit back. So that's one thing that I've had brides contact me recently, and I've said to them, it's fine, I will you can reschedule the wedding, and then you don't have to pay me the deposit again. The deposit is still held, but then obviously you still owe the balance that will be due 30 days before the wedding. So I'll try everything possible to get them to reschedule it. But if you haven't written that in a contract, you're basically screwed. You will have to pay it all back, because you've got nothing to help you that the bride has signed or whatever. So I definitely always put these sort of things inside a contract, and it does talk about cancellations. It will talk about act of God, all these other things. If I get sick, I can be replaced, for instance, and they can't cancel the wedding on me. So these are all things that are listed inside of the contract. It's very also important. Saying here, so do you use contracts for everything you do, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You have to, because you never know. Just like you said, I can't add nothing to what you said, because you've laid it all out like perfectly. It
says call, don't email. So it's trying to say here that keep it personal, and I did discuss that over the phone, on the with the bride and groom. If you email it, it's very impersonal. They
can kind of get it wrong. When you type to someone, then they get like a kind of a smirky remark back because they thought you were being, something like, oh, no, I didn't mean it that way. That's why you put LOL, so they kind of know. So call the person and call them instead of text them, because it could definitely, lighten the...
Yeah, it couldn't be. I mean, it can be. You could say something and you don't mean it that way. Exactly, that's correct. I did contact all of the brides by phone. In fact, most of them rang me. And we discussed it over the phone, and I did discuss why they don't get their deposit back, and they were all fine with that. They've all rescheduled, which is lucky. So it will come later on this year and later next year. So at least I haven't lost that wedding. The worst thing you can do as a photographer, even if this isn't weddings, if it was shoots that you've scheduled, is to lose the shoot completely, and that's what you want to avoid by going through this. So even though this is saying weddings, it's really relevant if it was any type of shoot, really. Create an available calendar. So you could obviously do a calendar where you're available. At the moment, it's not an issue because everything has stopped for me. So it's not going to be an issue for me until 6 months down the track. But obviously, sooner or later, and I've discussed this before, that there's going to be a massive influx when things pick up, because obviously all these weddings and everything else that's been on hold are going to start up again. So it's going to be interesting, and I've sort of spoke about this before, that we need to work together as a group of photographers to make sure that we share the work around. If you get 2 contacts on the same day, you need to pass that on to someone else, and that's just ethically right. I know some photographers that will just not do that at all, and that to me is just crazy. If you're booked out on that day and there's no way that they'll reschedule to another day, you should be passing it off to another photographer. So having dates, and even work with other photographers to say, look, I'll pass on leads to you and hopefully you'll pass on leads to me. If we work together as a community, we can all get through this. So I think that's an important thing to understand.
Good pointers.
And that's why I brought that on the next thing. Form a group of associate photographers. And like I said, that's going to be really critical. We have to help one another through this, guys. And, if you have that old mentality of I'm not sharing anything, I'm not going to help our fellow photographers, it will come back and bite you in the end, because hopefully if you give work to someone else is going to give work to you. And I think that's, it's a really important thing to consider, to share the work around if you're booked. And I think
that sounds good.
I always do that anyway. I have photographers that I share stuff with immediately if they can't change the date.
Very good advice.
Cash flow is king. And they're saying here, basically, for a wedding and photography industry, while we lose some bookings, while the dust settles, we might also gain a few couples have found that their photographer can't do the new date. And that's why I've said that could be the potential to do that. They're saying, so when customers are rescheduling new dates, consider asking them for a voluntary 50% payment of the balance. I'm not sure. I won't do that. I'm just going to keep the thing for me of the normal deposit, and I'll try and scrape through. Luckily, here in Australia, for instance, the government is really looking after businesses. So we've just been told yesterday that I think there's so much money going to be able to come to every business
that's good.
In the whole of Australia. So it looks like we'll get at least something that can tide us over for the next 6 months, which will at least put food on the table and things like that. So, we're not going to make money from it, but at least we can live. So that's something that is good, that I'm still waiting on working out how you apply and stuff like that. Like I'm waiting on a phone call from my accountant to do that. So at least we'll get something, whereas some people may not get anything. And, I don't know how... as an industry we're going to survive if that's the case, because a lot of countries may not do the same as what Australia's doing. I know New Zealand's just done it. I think England has subsidised wages. I'm not sure about the US, Aaron, what they're doing over there.
Yeah, they think so. Yep, they did it.
So there's things happening everywhere anyway, that hopefully we can all get through this together.
Yep.
So that's that one. And just to show you, there's another one. Oh, no, that's the next story. So that's that story. We'll come to Q&A in a minute. The last story we wanted to have a look at was this one, talking about Dapple Light. And Aaron has a video that I'll bring up shortly that I'll show you. I think he's added Dapple lighting to the background. Is that what you did in that video, Aaron?
Yeah, it was a commercial that I filmed for some associate thing, and there's a really, as the commercial progresses, it's in Spanish, and the announcer is saying this stressful thing causes these different things, and one of the scenes is it caused sleeplessness. So we set up a bedroom scene of the actor can't sleep at night. I think it's 2:48 in the morning or something like that. So once you show it, I guess I can go on so they know what I'm talking about.
So this before we sort of open up Aaron's video to look at, it's interesting because what they're saying is it's how to get Dapple Light on a budget on a small home photo studio. I don't know why that first pic didn't come through. Let me just refresh this. No, it's not going to. Oh, here we go. So there's a whole video that you can watch about this. Like I said, I'll post this down below so you can have a look at it. But she's used these shower, I think they're usually in showers and stuff like that, these lights that give this beautiful dapple look in the background that you can sort of see through here. And this whole story is talking about how you can use these glass bricks. I use this paper. Let me just see if I can grab it for a second. Just talk for a second, Aaron.
Yeah. So I think he's talking about those glass, I think you could see the photo. I'm a little behind on it, but got those glass blocks that we've actually got a few down in the kitchen, and I'll wait till he comes back to go further. But yeah, they're shining the light through there, and it's basically blocking the light. I lost my my feed here. Are you back, David?
Yep.
I can't see you.
Yep.
Oh, there you are.
So I use this, which is like a sin foil. Aaron would probably know about this because they use this for sort of taking off lights and stuff like that. This is an aluminium foil that's completely black. Now you can cut this to any size that you like, and then you can cut shapes and stuff like that through it. And I use this to make dapple light sometimes with continuous light or flash. Like if you cut holes in, you can make it look like windows. You can do all different things with this. This is actually normally used, I think, to put on lights and to sort of feather the light off or to stop the light. I'm not sure what they call that in video, Aaron, where you would put it around the outside and it cuts the light from, say, going over. Like, for instance, if you had a light that was coming over here and I wanted to sort of shade myself through here, you can use this to take that light. Yeah, it's flagged, yeah. They use it to flag off stuff. Well, it's great to make these little things where I cut out holes and stuff like that to make shapes. If you look down through here, they're using like these windows to give this dapple sort of light that you can sort of see through this here, and I think it looks beautiful.
Yeah, it looks cool.
You can also see, I think further down, that's the type of thing where I'd use it for. See how they have the shape, and then you cut the holes out and you can get these beautiful looking images that you can sort of see through here. So this could be a perfect opportunity to try something like this in the time that you've got at the moment when you're not doing much due to the fact of being locked down. It might be a perfect opportunity to try something like that. But let me just see if this will open this video. Open, and I'll bring it over.
You might want to pause it because it's a quick little section if it's that commercial you're looking for.
I'm bringing up your video, Aaron.
Okay.
Let me just see if I can find where it is to bring it over. All right, so this is the video that Aaron did. Let me just move it over and I'll play it. I'll make it smaller so you can see it. All right, so there's a guy lying on his bed, obviously with a just the phone there. So I'll just press play, Aaron, will I?
I see it like, oh, you shrunk it down.
All right, so that's the video that Aaron wanted to talk about there. So what did you want to say about this one, Aaron?
Yeah, so this was just a really quick segment of a 30-second commercial, and I used that lighting, a lighting technique, as you can see in the back wall, and you got three things. You got flags, you got gobos, and you got cookies. A gobo is typically used in theater, where the gobo goes between, like inside the housing of the light, where it goes between the light and the lens, and usually gobos will produce a sharper edges on the pattern that you're projecting. And then a cookie goes in front of the whole light source, which projects a pattern that usually gives you a softer type edge look. So in this instance here, I used what we would call a cookie, and that photo that he showed with that square thing with the thing, it's basically she's using a cookie for that too, which goes in front of the light to produce a shadow of something, whether it would be leaves or whatever. And in this particular case, we filmed this in my bedroom where we don't have like any windows that would produce what you see on that back wall. And without it, it would have been a little boring. So what we did is I closed off all the window lights that we did have. So now it's pitch black. That way I can control the light. And then on camera right, we have a light to light him up, and then in the back we have another light, kind of like if you see the way he's sitting, like where his butt is pointing back there on that side of the bed, we have a light. And I took Venetian blinds, I think that's what they're called, the ones that you twist like this and they go like that. Yeah. And I just set them up on two light stands so that the light would shine through, basically making a cookie, shining this pattern on the wall, and it was gelled blue. So you kind of got this idea that it's a, light coming in from an outside source, which it wasn't, at nighttime, creating those Venetian blinds back there. So it's a minor detail, but those are the details you do in video just to accentuate the scenario that's going on. So, you see it's 2:50 in the morning, I think. I had on there the blue light, he's sleeping, you see the Venetian blind look, and it looks like light coming in. And that's how I used Apple lighting for this particular commercial.
Yeah, it looks good. See, little things like that make the difference between something looking interesting and ordinary. When you first look at it, you don't even notice, and that's the interesting thing. Because when I first opened up, I thought, "Oh, what happened here?" But then I did realise that you had this lighting that you could sort of see in the background that came through.
And it's an important. It's an important point, too, not to always make it look so noticeable, because even when you're doing like special effects or CGI for a film, you want to be sure that you don't accentuate certain things where it's just like, oh, whatever. You want to do all these little details that add up to realism, or where the person watching it, they don't notice it. It just looks real and it looks natural. And when you see that scene, it just looks like a night scene. But don't overdo it unless that's what your creative style is for on that certain particular thing. The other thing is people use like trees or leaves, like if you're filming something outside at a porch and there's a couple, they had their first date and they're going to have the awkward, first kiss goodbye type thing or whatever. If it's just a blank wall and there's no trees around, you can just set up a tree on a light stand and shine it through. That way you just have a better looking scene than just a blank wall. You kind of have that tree look to it. So yeah, it's something that you could use in all your productions. Yeah,
and it's really interesting. I really like that. It's funny because Jim said, one of the first portraits I took had Dapple Light and I was maligned for it. I love it. That's quite funny. Now let's finish before we go up to Q&A. Let's open up the
Are we going to show our photos next week?
No, I'm going to open it now.
Oh.
Let me just open yours up. Let me bring it.
Because you said Q&A, so it kind of threw me off.
Yeah, just before we do Q&A.
Oh, sorry.
This is beautiful. I love this shot. Let me just make sure I can bring the whole thing in. Let me move that over. About there. Yep. So I've got yours open now, Aaron, if you wanted to talk about it.
Okay, so this photo here, if you didn't see my video already about Ike's workshop in Nelson Ghost Town in Nevada, it was amazing.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't use any flash that whole day, did I? No, I didn't use any flash. I just ran around natural light because I like to use natural light, as David just mentioned in his latest video, that he's using more natural light more often now than flash. It's to each his own. And this specific shot, because my wife is wearing pink, when we were just about ready to, start doing photos around this beautiful Nelson ghost town, I saw that pink Cadillac. But when I looked over there, the sun just wasn't right. And I knew the sun was going down to the left if you're looking at this photo. And I knew that later that this is going to be really cool because I knew that the sun is going to go lower in the sky and then shine and hit and clip the mountains to the right. If you're ever around mountains, you just know that happens. So one thing to look out for is when you get to a location, if you haven't scouted it out before, and I've never been to this place, just look where your lighting is and look around, kind of walk around and get a feel for things. And when you see something, don't just shoot right away, because you might want to look at the sun like, where's that sun going to be? Is it going to get better or is it going to get worse? Maybe this is the best chance, maybe not. So I just wanted to show you guys this photo that we waited like, I don't know how many hours we waited for that, but I kept telling my wife, hey, don't forget that Cadillac, and I kept an eye on it while we were doing all of our other photo shoots of the models and stuff. And just don't shoot right away, kind of look around and see where that sun might be. And in this photo in particular, I did that to get those mountain lights. I can see it now. And the other thing I wanted to do is I was on the Tamron at 75 millimeters at f2.8, and I wanted to get I don't do it all the time, but I really try to get foreground and background and put my subject in the middle so you have depth. And so I used some of the grass that was just growing out of the
you can see that
the rocks there. Yeah. Yep. So I had to get really low to get that, but that's the other thing I did. That way, yeah, it kind of gives you a better perspective having that foreground. So between the foreground and the mountains and that sun hitting. That was the idea when I first got there, but I had to wait for like 2 or 3 hours or something like that before I had to go back there and take the photo. So
it's lovely though. I love the see also because of the way the light's hitting those mountains, the separation between Lisdian and the background is beautiful. Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, it's nice that the car and Lisdian are actually in that shadow that's still open enough that you can see everything, but then you've got that sort of highlight that's in the mountain coming through there. It sort of leads right into Lisdian, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, the other thing real quick is other people might have used a flash for that, which would give you an entirely different look and might be a cool look and whatever. But for me, I mean, if I just showed this photo, which I did, nobody questioned that, hey, why didn't you use a flash? So you don't always have to use flash unless that's your style. And I think it turned out great. And, all I had to do is really, I exposed for the mountains because the sun was shining on there. So I used my zebras in camera and I used exposure to expose for that, and then the shadows weren't completely dark because it wasn't nighttime, and then I could just boost the shadows a little bit in post, and that's how I got the image.
Yeah. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes you've got to be careful using flash because Lisdian matches the background perfectly here, and if you'd use flash and you didn't control it perfectly, it wouldn't match what you're looking at in that image. And this is where I'm saying you've got to be very careful that if you are going to use flash that you match the ambient completely, because a really good flash exposure means you don't even notice there's flash being used, and that's what you've got to watch. If Aaron had added flash onto this and Lisdian was much brighter, well then it would look fake. It would look like what's happening here, it wouldn't make sense, whereas this makes perfect sense because she's blending in with that background perfectly, and she has that separation that from that background is separating. Because if this was dark, Lisdian's hair would match in with that background, and you wouldn't see that separation. So it's perfect, really, how it looks.
You pointed out more stuff than I forgot to say, so that's good. Thanks.
So it's great. All right, so let me just open up mine. I thought I'd show you something a little bit different with mine. Because it's a wedding image, but I had to try and focus on this beautiful bride's eyes when I did this image. So this image here, I'll just move it over so you can see the other girl there. They had fans on the day, and I just had this idea of having 3 fans sort of circling the bride. Because she had these beautiful eyes, there, I wanted to make the eyes a focal point to this, but I wanted all those fans that you're seeing, the 3 of them, to sort of point straight into Danielle here, and her eyes were absolutely stunning. I mean, I'm not sure if you can. Let me just see if I can zoom in. How do I get rid of those? I'll just have to close it for a minute. Her eyes are just unbelievably blue. Incredible eyes. I'll bring it over large so you can see it like that. If you look at her eyes, they are just stunning, and that's the reason why I wanted to just sort of make this focus. She actually wears glasses. In the other images I've posted, she's wearing her glasses, but I asked her if she'd take them off just for this photo because I wanted to concentrate solely on her eyes. And the thing was too that with the other fans that are there, I even like how I've just showed a fraction. Now this is a personal thing. I even like how I've showed a fraction of the bridesmaids there and the other arm coming out through the side there, showing that sort of shape. But I love the shape of the fans in this. It's something that's different. I'm always trying to think of something different that I can give brides, and I'm constantly trying to think all the time of how I can make this more like art. And this is what I always say to the brides. I want to be an artist rather than just a wedding photographer. And this sort of suits it perfectly for me to think that it's a little bit outside the norm, but I think it's beautiful. And she's got gorgeous eyes, and I wanted to sort of represent those in this very feminine type look. So that's really
that's beautiful. That you know what I like is that you did leave the bridesmaids there, because if you would have, you could have cropped it in later and you could do whatever you wanted or get it in camera. But if you would have just did that, then it wouldn't. It would take you out of the day that was going on. It would be more of a more of a fashion-y type thing or a photo shoot of something like that. But leaving the bridesmaid, that there's other girls. You didn't even have to. If I seen this and I didn't even know it was a wedding, I wouldn't think if it was a fashion shoot. I would think like, oh, look, it must have been some type of a party with other people. Or so that was amazing that you actually took the idea to keep the bridesmaids in it. So I love that.
Yeah, so that's what that is. So just trying to think outside the box.
And did you use
A
flash or
little bit.
anything? Did I miss
Nope.
that?
No, it's just
No.
all natural light. Just exposing for the background. The dynamic range is so great on these cameras now that you can basically expose for the for the foreground and then
That's
light it
just
up a
it.
little bit in post later on.
I had a question.
Yep.
The fans, was that something she requested that you found out later, or you requested those?
No,
or?
I didn't. They just had them on the day. It was interesting because it was a very interesting wedding because they were massive Harry Potter fans as well, and they wanted shots done with wands and all these other things that were really strange. But then all of a sudden, they brought out fans, which didn't match what I thought was going to be for the day at all. And I just thought immediately, well, what can I do with this? And that was an idea that I thought I could use.
Very good.
With the fans. So yeah, that's what that
Very
was
good
about.
thinking, David.
So let's just open it quickly up to Q&A. It won't matter now if we're out of sync because I'm just going to show the questions itself. So let's have a look and just see what people were saying. I'm not going to go right the way back. Langston said I would learn DaVinci Resolve instead of Premiere. They have a free version. And that's true. It is free, Aaron, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they have the free version and then the studio version. And the free version has pretty much everything you'd probably need. The studio version, you could do larger K footage. I think the free one does 4K. You could do other 6 and 8K with the studio version. Studio version also gives you noise reduction. And I'm not sure if the free one now gives you image video stabilization or not, but there's only a few things that the studio has for most people. Now, it does have other things for when you really dive deep into there, but for most people, the free one will do you fine. And it's always free. It's not just a time period. It's always
and yes,
been
it
free.
is. It's available for PC, Mac, and Linux.
Yes, I have PC.
What else have we got? Langston also said it handles footage very well.
Oh, it's so fast. And if you haven't already, guys, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, definitely go into, like when you open DaVinci and you have a project open, go to the bottom right and there's a little gear icon. Click on that, and then I can't remember where it's at, but somewhere there, make sure you have it on your NVIDIA graphics card. That way, I mean, it literally like renders. I mean, I got a fast computer, but it renders almost in real time. It's like, wow, it's like so fast, so it's really good. Maybe kind of like the CUDA, I think you call it CUDA Core, CUDA something on Premiere Pro. Probably something like that.
Jim said a good idea too. He said currently doing something. He's doing collabs on photos via a cloud service. So in other words, he's working with other people's photos. So they're sharing them and both editing. So that's an interesting concept that you could do.
Yeah, very interesting.
If you wanted to. Scott said, I'm the opposite. I'm a carer, so I've got more work than ever. Best wishes for everyone.
Is a courier?
He's
What?
Well, he's a carer, so he's looking after someone. Scott was saying, so he's busy. He said.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
What else have
He's
we got?
he's got a lot of work.
Sid said your
careful, man.
contract will have to be ironclad because it will be tested. Yep. I've had mine written by a lawyer, so it's ironclad. Yep. I mean, it could always be tested in court, I suppose. But like anything else, most brides are happy with that fact that I'm not trying to say we won't go ahead with the wedding and I'm forcing them to pay another deposit.
Yeah. If you're
all I'm
reasonable.
doing, yeah.
Yeah, if you're kind of reasonable, people won't test you or like, oh, how dare him. If you get a little cocky with something, then they might go, forget it. Then I'm gonna, try to go after this or something. I mean, you may get one of those, no matter how nice you are, but at least try to play it smart.
Yeah. Gerald said, my wedding and portrait and model shoots have contracts and deposits, but my corporate clients don't do deposits, and if their event is cancelled, they have no obligation to pay me. Yep, that could be a problem.
Yeah, that is a thing.
What else have we got? Guy with the camera said, well, it would help if you had a stunning model. I'm not sure what that was talking about. Jim said a 1960 Caddy. That car.
Oh, yeah, that was that pink Cadillac that I took
Yeah.
a photo of my wife.
And this is true. Sizzleman said, Liz Dion always seems to have the perfect outfit for your shoots. How big of a wardrobe does she travel with?
Oh, say that again. I was typing.
So Sizzleman said, Lisden always seems to have the perfect outfit for your shoots. How big a wardrobe does she travel with? So do you plan this color before, Aaron, or what?
Yeah, we've said this. I've said this anytime I talk about my photo shoots. I always say this in my videos on my YouTube channel. But every time we go out, we always research where we're going to do photo shoots. And if we can't go there in person, then we look it up on the internet. Let's say we went to a small town in Europe called Hallstatt, and we looked up on the internet at the time that we're going, and we've seen that there's a lot of oranges and browns and stuff like that. So then my wife will either get in her closet and put things together, or we will specifically buy clothing for those locations. So we absolutely plan almost all of our shoots, not just with my wife, but any model shoot that I do, even if it's like a love story of a couple, I always say, hey, what's your ideas? And once they give me ideas, and I give them my feedback, where do you want to go? And then we always make the, what's that word?
Collaborate?
Collaborate with them on what colors they should wear based on a location or whatever it is. So yeah, we definitely plan that. So we don't have to take like a whole bunch of clothes and pick and choose while we're there. So yeah, we definitely plan that.
Cool. And that's about, we're at the end of it. Now, guys, if you would like us to discuss anything, if something really does interest you that you'd love us to talk about, please leave it in the comment box down below, because Aaron and myself always answer both of these questions. So if you would like us to discuss something, leave it in the comment box down below, and we'll make sure we address that in a future episode. Apart from that, really, it's just this whole thing about today was keeping yourselves busy. I mean, this is the thing that we have to understand at the moment, is to try and keep yourselves busy in this time. With,
use your time wisely.
Lockdown. Yeah, use it wisely, as Aaron just said. And we wanted to sort of, hopefully give you something in that regard that you could think about doing in the coming days. I will be live again on Friday for this behind the Sony rumors, news and alpha stuff. So stay tuned for that on Friday. Have you got anything coming up, Aaron, on your video side?
Yeah, we'll be doing some more videos. Stay tuned. And I was going to say, if you're new, if you're new seeing my face here and don't know, come on over to my channel, Aaron J. Anderson. You can find me on Instagram. Yeah, and my name goes across all the social media. So Instagram and YouTube is typically where I'm hanging out. So subscribe to me, follow me. I would love to see you guys there. And yeah, head on over there and stay tuned for some new content. That's for sure. And we will be back on Tuesday. Next Tuesday. David, are we going to try to do the same time, 7 o'clock-ish?
Yeah, around 7 o'clock we'll do it.
New York
same time from now. New York time, yeah. Just the last question there. Sizzleman also said, any comment on DP reviews on the A7 III having the worst preamps? Well, I'm not sure what on earth they're talking about, because I've never, ever had anyone ever mention a problem with the A7 III having bad preamps. I have looked at that. I might discuss that on Friday, but I certainly have never had an issue with the preamps in the A7 III. Perhaps
we're talking about the audio preamp?
Yeah, they're saying that they're not clean or something. I think that's what's going on. There's a couple of stories going around now. I believe Gerald Undone has just done a video on it, so I might have to watch that too. Whether he's said that's not true or not, I'm not sure. I mean, perhaps compared to some of the other cameras out there, like the Panasonics, they may have better preamps that are inside them, but it's never been... Remember, I'm always about real-world usage, and perhaps they measure these things with instruments and stuff like that, and it comes through as being that it's not as good as the other cameras out there, but I've never, ever thought of the A7 III as having bad preamps. So...
Well... As everybody knows, I've had many cameras, and it's I've never heard anything in my Sony A7 III as far as concerns of audio. I mean, I've had some of my Canon cameras in the past were like horrific, just like absolutely terrible. I've never had any issues. I wouldn't even worry about it. I'd have to check that out for myself. But I mean, I've been editing most of my videos on this, and they sound good to me.
Well, the guy with the camera said audio pixel peepers, and they say, that's...
Yeah, just like everything, really.
Yeah, Mike said he'd love to learn about everyone's workflow. So, yeah, put that down in the comment down below
Head over to my channel. I'm going to do some videos on that, actually.
Yeah, well, there you go. So Aaron's going to do some. So thanks so much for today, guys. Sorry about the audio issues we had a little bit earlier.
And the green skin.
Yeah, the green skin. We'll get that fixed for next week. The other thing, too, is I'll have the link for Aaron's channel down below. So please subscribe if you haven't subscribed to Aaron's channel. And apart from that, we'll see you all in the next video. So bye for now, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye. See you on the next.
I would say we were good together. I would say we had fun.
Oop. I think I just went live again. Bye, everyone. End stream. Now, about that A7S3, Aaron, are you buying it or? Why can't I quit?